Hello, I'm Mark Woolley. I'm a 60-year resident of the town of Riverhead, and I'm candidate for Riverhead Town Board this fall of 2025, and been very proud to actually announce, early on that I was running. I had put in 30 years of public service with both federal and state, and at that time, over that course, I had worked for 6 different members of Congress, and I also worked for the State Assembly. And again, most of it was here in Nassau, Suffolk, but in the end, for the congressional work that I was doing, it was really right here in the 1st District, which encompassed, at that time, from Smithtown all the way out to Orient, and from Brookhaven all the way out to Montauk. So it was quite a bit of work that I was responsible for. A lot of what I did was overseeing congressional projects that involved the Army Corps or the FAA or the DEC at the state level, and also overseeing the staff that we had for the congressional office and making sure that all the constituent work that would come into the office, either by people walking in or by phone calls or emails or whatever, that we were attending to that. And that is the nuts and bolts of what I do over these years, is public service. And what I'm bringing to my race here is something that's lacking here in the town of Riverhead, is public service. I like to say right now that what we have here is lip service more than public service, and I don't do lip service. I'm about working, and I was raised that way. My father was in the Air Force, and he was a veteran of 3 wars, and we were stationed here at West Hampton in 1964, so we've been here since that time. I've gone through the Riverhead school system. You learn a way of life out here. I was raised in the hamlet of Aquebogue, right across from the modern snack bar. And I was telling people, Crescent Duck Farm was my backyard. It was probably the best childhood anyone could ever have, because you were able to run free, and you had horses and dogs and all that. So it was just a wonderful way to grow up here. But then I went through the Riverhead school system and ended up graduating in '74. Proud to be in a Blue Wave, of course, and it's something that I bring to this race as someone who's been part of the community for the longest time. I've moved elsewhere and then come back, so I've worked in Washington, D.C., and then I've worked down in the southern climes and down in Texas. But, eventually you come back, and I worked in journalism for a while here on Long Island, with a number of local newspapers, and then became involved in, I like to say, governing, working government work. People always say it's politics. Politics to me is the campaign. You do the campaign's over, and then you get right down to the government work. The government work means that when you have to help someone that needs your help, you don't care who it is. We never ask who it is. We never ask their party affiliation. All we ask is, what is the issue? Okay, and what is the fastest way we can get to yes for you? And that's what I've been doing over 30 years. You're never 100% on anything, okay? Life is not 100%, but you do your best to get there. And if you can't handle it directly at the federal level, which is mostly what I was doing, you'd make darn sure that the person who came to you with an issue, maybe it was an issue that involves the State Department of Labor, and so you get them connected with their local officials within the state and the staff there. So you're always interconnecting. Or maybe it was a county issue, where they needed to deal with Department of Works, Public Works for the county. So you'd get them connected. Or, in my case, since I was working as director for so many of these members, I would be contacting them directly. I'd be dealing with the county departments themselves, or I'd be dealing with the state departments, or I'd be dealing with all these federal agencies. And then more importantly to me was working with all the towns and villages up and down the North Fork and the South Fork. They would have so many issues, a lot of them really involving environmental issues, is how to go ahead and get a waterway dredged, or how to go ahead and get a road repaired. And you would think, well, maybe that would fall within the county or the local level. Not so, because it always comes down to money and the appropriations, and how can you get money to go ahead and get that issue addressed in a timely fashion. I mean, there was a great example was we were working with the town of Southampton, and they had a big washout on the west of Shinnecock, and we had to go in there, and I got a call from Steve Malone, then the county executive, saying, that was the first call I'd gotten that he had made. He called me and said, we need to get the Army Corps in here. I said, well, okay, why don't we do this before we do anything else? Why don't we get everybody together in one room, figure out what we have going on, figure out the interim, and then we'll get the long-range plan. And that's a lot of what I do, is bringing people to go ahead and let's figure it out. Yeah, we want to go ahead and get it done, but it doesn't always get done yesterday. Sometimes you have to actually push it down the road a little bit before it actually gets done. So in that case, we were able to pull the county in and say, okay, you guys put a Band-Aid on it until we get the Army Corps in here to take care of the entire project. That project is still standing there, and the dunes are there, and it's because of us. And it's that kind of work that you do. We've got people that are working with the town of Riverhead. I was working here with the issues as far as what you see right here behind Sweezy's. We've been trying to go ahead, and they got a lot of flooding. It was the old Sweezy's building. The flooding that goes out here in the parking lot, well, now they're talking about trying to put it in the town square and whatnot. So when I was working with the federal government at that time, I brought in Army Corps to go ahead and have a meeting with these folks to find out what are the best options to deal with the flooding here. Because before you put in anything, you've got to deal with the flooding. So don't put in your project and then go ahead and, okay, now I'll take care of flooding. It doesn't work that way. There are certain things that you have to work out programmatically. But the more important thing is, excuse me, is just having the ability to know that the elected officials can turn to you and reach out to you and get a positive response. And that's important, because if you're working with government levels of government, they have to be responsive. And the way I've gone about it is be responsive as quickly as you can, get on top of it as quickly as you can, and get it going as quickly as you can. That way, hopefully, you can get to yes in the end. So, again, you're never 100%, but what I bring here now is also something that I see, especially with my last tour, with my last member, was dealing with a lot of immigration issues. I did not expect to be doing that. And a lot was with State Department and USCIS. And of course, that has exploded at this point, with people really not sure where they're going or what to be doing. Or should we even come out and be seen? And to them, I say, yeah, come on out, because I'm here to help you. I'm here to talk to you. I've done this kind of work. There are people here who are trying to be naturalized or to get their working papers. They don't know who to turn to. And they've been in the system, in the legal system that is here for years but they don't know where their paperwork is. They don't have anyone here at Town Hall who even reaches out to them to talk to them and to find out, how do I even progress from where I am? Where am I at this point? That's something that I bring with me, because I still have all those contacts, and I dealt with it for so long. And then there's people who are just trying to bring people into the United States legally from other countries. Or maybe they need help with a member of their family who's over in another country, and what's the best way to get help to them? That's through the State Department. I dealt with the State Department, and I was very happy. That was probably one of the more challenging things to it, probably one of the more prideful things to it, was having all these contacts with the U.S. State Department and getting people assistance that they need. But it's things like that you're supposed to do. That's public service. And so that's what I bring to this. What I see here at this town is with the current mixture of this town board, is a group that doesn't want to hear from you at all. They're irritated by the fact of your mere presence. They don't want to hear from you. They don't want your signs. They don't want people to stand up because you irritate them. If you're not saying what they want to hear from you, they're going to show you the door, or maybe they'll have police officers help show you the door. That's not what public service is about. When you have a public hearing and you're there behind the dais, you're there to hear them. Let them have their say and thank them for coming. And then call on the next person. That's what a hearing is about. These folks don't even seem to know what hearing is 101. So there's no time to educate them. We are at a breaking point. We just saw our taxes go up again. They're talking about increasing them in 25. while they increased their pay. They had no problem doing that. They had proposed early on massive pay raises for everybody, massive tax increase, and by the time they got done, they still taxed us to where people are now at the point of trying to figure out if they can even stay in Riverhead. To me, that's not what you do to your neighbors. You help them stay in Riverhead. And if you want a pay raise, go in the private sector. Government is not about that. When you're elected at a certain level of pay. Be thankful that you even have that, and then go about your work. People don't understand that when you say you're going to roll up your sleeves, actually do it and go about it and get the job done. I've been very frustrated by what I've seen in town. I don't like what I see. It's legislation by lawsuit. I read about more lawsuits in this town, and every time you turn around, there's another lawsuit that's costing us, the taxpayers, the taxpayers, more and more, while we end up in court trying to either defend it or it's something that we brought on ourselves. That's really been done because nothing has been thought out. Poor planning, no discussion, and then in the end, you get things tied up and you end up going nowhere. And this town right now is going nowhere. You've got the EPCAL property tied up. Who knows how long that's going to be tied up. They sued their neighbor. You sued Southampton Town over sewerage that they know was coming, and they had 10 years to prepare for this. At the 11th hour, they go ahead and file a lawsuit. That was your idea? That was the best you could come up with? We'll just go file another lawsuit? Just have a lawsuit over a cannabis shop that wants to come in off of Route 58. I mean, we've got this 5-story monstrosity, white elephant sitting next to the library. That's just sitting there. We've got people who are being forced out. We were supposed to have a Long Island Science Center, and because it didn't fit in their plans, now they're talking about doing eminent domain to get rid of a person here who was brought in one of the best projects you could ever think of that got people so excited, even the town board. Then apparently it just didn't fit in what their current plans are. Their current plans is to continue with their overdevelopment. Just like you saw, again, poor planning. You just saw it at Scotts Point, where they went ahead and they put up, go-karts, and they put in a where you could have boats, and then they put up another facility for catering, all without permits, all without following the State Environmental Quality Review Act. They're fortunate I wasn't on the board, because I would have been the one saying, no. Once we found, if you'd done that on my watch and put it up, no, take it all down, put it back the way you got it, and then come back to us with a plan, and then we'll take a look at it, and we'll discuss it, and we'll get back to you. We'll let you know. It's like these folks here are in such a hurry to try to build what they think is a tax base. All they're doing, and they say it right away, it's a money grab. It's the low-hanging fruit. Let's just go ahead and go there. To me, that's just being lazy. All right? That's not what you do. You actually sit down and you plan. You're here to plan and work for the town and not work for yourselves. And that's the problem that we have here in the town of Riverhead. These folks don't understand that public service is about serving the public, not yourself. I know it seems like my theme is public service. In the strangest of ways, it's all I know. Even when I was working at the local newspapers and writing about people's issues, even as a reporter or a journalist, you are taught to be fair, balanced, and honest. And if you can bring those along to working as far as doing government work, and you have that training, then my understanding is a person comes to you and they have an issue. The more you get involved with it, the more you really want to get it resolved. So it's kind of just takes off, and you kind of just go for the ride. And the next thing you know, you got another person with another issue, and you got another person. It could be a veteran, it could be a senior, it could be a young person trying to just get some mentoring or just get an idea where they should be going. Dealing with young people who are trying to go off and serve in the military academies. We had to do that through every member that I work with, and you should do everything you can when they come in, if they qualify, to help them succeed. Because if they succeed, they're succeeding for us. And so it's that kind of service that you deal with. I like to fish, and yes, I even like to hunt, okay? But you have to understand something. Anything that I fish, I eat. Anything I hunt, I eat. So it's, it's just things I enjoy doing. Look, as much as you protect the First Amendment, the Second Amendment is not something where it's like, oh my God, you should be scared of it. No, it's like something, if you're out there fishing and hunting and you're eating it, that's a pretty good thing, So it's something you enjoy, Then again, if I had to say anything else that I enjoy, I think it's just being able to walk Main Street and see Main Street. We live near Route 58, which is an entire issue unto itself. The traffic there takes me 15 traffic lights to get to my daughter's house in Aquabog. I mean, we've got to work better on that. And it's not being addressed. All we hear in town is, well, it's a county road. Yeah, but you deal with county officials. Well, and then they talk to the county officials. Well, really, we don't have the funding. Well, have you asked the state for the funding? Because there is funding. It depends on how you go. You have to press them to want to do it. There is federal dollars that came down. It comes to the state. It is trickle down. It comes to the state. It comes to the county. So you just have to know how to tap into it. These folks just don't want to do that. But again, getting back to where I enjoy walking along Peconic and just sitting there. Sometimes you can just hang out. My wife would tell me sometimes, I think you're thinking about too much the flooding and how you're going to get that fixed. Well, she's probably right. She's probably right about that, because we need to get it fixed. Because again, if they're going to do something back there for the residents of the town or people who come here to enjoy Riverhead, as tourists, because on the way to go get pumpkins or go to all the wineries, we want them to come here. But we also have to maintain our town, and you have to do it, with some thought, and that means forethought, and not just knee-jerking to something and hoping that you have the right approach. It takes thought. It takes putting people who probably are smarter than you, in the room with you, and not having a problem, but just wanting to hear from them and coming together, bringing together a plan, and people talk about diversity and equity and all that. Yeah. Very important, all that. It's good. Put that in the room as you're trying to create a plan and bring in, people that maybe they don't look like you, okay? Get them included, and you want to hear from them. We have potential here to bring in a very good project that's been languishing for decades, and I'm talking about the First Baptist Church. It's called the Family Community Life Center. It's been, and they've been, God bless them, they've been working, it's a mixture of housing, and it's got stuff for youth, it's got stuff for seniors, we pushed them to even add some stuff in there for veterans, so, all kinds of services and whatnot. And this town has just said no to that, but allowed everything else. And then it's like, something gets built, and then it's like, we didn't realize that was being built. It reminds me of the segment in Casablanca, where they come out there and they say, there's illegal gambling here, and then the guy turns around and says, oh, here, sir, here's your winnings. That's what's going on here. You have an opportunity to work with people. You talk, but it's more, again, it's not on this end. It's not public service. It's lip service, and you can't do that. Not if you're serious about doing the job. You should trust me because I'm not the guy who's telling you I don't want to hear from you. That's why. I actually want to sit down and talk to you. And I can't get anything going with you until we sit down and try to figure things out. So trust enough in me to say, okay, I want to sit down with this guy. Let's give it a shot. And that's what I'm saying. Let's give it a shot, because what you've got there right now isn't working. This town right now is for sale. It's time to rip down that for sale sign. First of all, everybody should understand, I am not a member of any party. I am what they call unaffiliated or blank, okay? That's where I am. I am running with the Democratic Party, and I'm glad to be running with the Democratic Party, because one-party rule, either in Riverhead or even in New York State, which we see, the Democrats running it, It doesn't work because you don't have real debate. Okay, you don't have others' opinions where you're going to actually matter, and you can sit together and try to cobble something out that maybe it's different than what you would suggest, but might actually be better than what you suggest. Here in Riverhead, you've got 5 members of the town board who are all of one party. They don't want to hear from anybody except themselves. You have to be able to, and whether you're running as a Democrat, whatever, you have to be able to go at least insert yourself there and be heard as a member of a governing body. Here, they don't want to hear from you.
How would you go about having your voice be heard, your opinions taken into taken into account, with the majority being on the other side?
Sure. Now, look, I'm not a yeller or a screamer. I'm not going to be sitting there and I'm not going to be pounding my fist or anything like that. I'll just make it flat out known that, you know what, I'm here, I'm going to be heard. I'm going to be heard at these town board meetings. I'm going to be heard on the street. I'm actually going to meet with constituents, maybe not even here in town hall. I'll probably hold meetings at local community centers and in Wading River and in Jamesport and here in Riverhead or at the local libraries. And I'll meet one-on-one with anybody, okay? Because when I was helping out the members of Congress, we would have something called mobile office hours. That all it does is you take your office and you go someplace and you meet with them and you go one-on-one with them. A lot of times it's a lot better for people. They want to meet with you and they want to talk to you in private. Maybe they've got an issue. Well, that's something they should have had here a long time ago. Look, if I'm 1, 2, or there's 3 of us on the board, I'm doing that anyway. That's like the top of my agenda, is to go ahead and set up a schedule where people are going to know that, Councilman Woolley is going to be in South Jamesport, the community center, or, what I'm saying, or in Calverton someplace, on this day at this time, maybe with another staff person, we're just alone, but it's, I know what to do. I know how to go ahead and sit with people and hear them out and let them talk to me. So, I'm looking, that's how I would handle it. And at town board meetings, I would be the one person there who would be telling them, no, I want to hear from you. You can bring your sign. If you can bring signs into the floor of the House of Representatives, then you should be able to bring your signs into Riverhead Town Hall. I was able to see my father. He lived to the age of 95. Lived through 3 wars, World War II, Korea and Vietnam. And he's just a regular guy. He just went about his business. He came back and, just went about his life with his family. And so I always figured, if you can be like that, or somewhat like that, or people like that, men and women, who just have done their best, and try to carve out a good life, the rest is gravy.
Nice.